From Bijat Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Monday Report. We have one Mr. Ndimuli Kahi, the chairperson, Kenya Secondary School Heads Association. Thank you so much for making time for us this evening.
Thank you, thank you.
He's also a member of the COVID-19 National Education Response Committee. I want to show you some footage that we had to establish which school exactly this was, but it's been doing rounds on social media. Let's bring it up and then let's talk about it in just a bit. You can see there the students almost being fumigated as they report to school. Mr. Ndimuli, is that right?
Maybe before I answer that one, allow me first to send my condolences to Mbale High School, who today lost one of their candidates as he was reporting to school. It was unfortunate that he had an accident as he was going to school. So we want to say pole to the school and to the family. Yeah. Having said that, it's an unfortunate action from the school, if it is really a school in Kenya, because fumigating people, this had been outlawed. When we had a lot of booths around, I think this was stopped. But maybe it is that fear of what would happen. So principals may not want to take any chances. Yeah. So in the process, we are likely to make mistakes. This is not right, but we will want to forgive him or her, yeah, and hope that we will continue educating each other so that this is not repeated. Okay.
What is your assessment of day one? It's been 7 months, the students have been home, the pupils have been home. What is your assessment in terms of the turnout, pretty much, in school?
Day one has been, in my view, and from the reports I've received, has been successful. Looking at the numbers that I've reported to schools and compared to what happens on day one, even before we had any outbreak, the percentage is good. If I look at our school, for example, we were expecting 313 candidates. By 5:30 this evening, they were 263. So the percentage is good, and I've received the same from many of my colleagues. Even in some of your clips earlier, yeah, you showed that the turnout is good, especially at secondary level. Yeah.
Okay. But now you see some of the footage you're showing there, the students don't even have masks. Initially, the government had said that you would give masks to students. Now we had the CS saying that these masks are going to be given only to the needy students. This is happening when they've already reported.
It's unfortunate. We were expecting that government will provide these masks, but because of the cost implication, the government has not been able to do so. But it's not coming today. I think this statement was made a little bit earlier by the minister, yeah, and we expected that parents have gotten it, and we also expected that schools will have communicated. But my colleagues will always put in place some contingency measures because we do not want to send students away for lack of masks. We will want them to be in school. So I have seen some schools providing masks, but these are the disposable masks, hoping that the parents will make arrangement and bring the masks to school.
But isn't this counterproductive, Ndimuli? Because then already the students have already reported. Do the head teachers have budgets for these masks?
There are no budgets for masks as such. For secondary schools, there was a provision of 500 shillings per child for COVID-19 mitigation measures. So apart from maybe buying hand washing facilities and the rest, maybe the principal would assess, looking at the number of students who have not been able to come with masks and see how he or she can mitigate. What I'm aware of is none of my colleagues would be ready to send away the child, despite the challenge. They would support, but again, seek maybe the Ministry of Education to come in and support these children. Remember, the vulnerable children are spread across the country. They are not just in one single school.
Yeah.
There are 10 there, 20 in this one. So these are the people who I'm sure we will identify as schools and then place our request to the Ministry of Education.
Yeah.
Because now that the ministry has masks for the vulnerable, for the very needy, and they are aware these needy children are spread across the country, as principals, we will be placing a request to them to support those particular one in our institutions.
But as principals, what options do you have? Because capitation money has just been sent very recently. Even if you're supposed to adjust your infrastructure or infrastructure in schools, the money is coming at a time when students are already reporting, and now they're being told that in the next 2 weeks, the rest may even come. I would say it is challenging, but at the same time, it provides an opportunity for us to really think out of the box. And many principals out there have ways of trying to mitigate a challenge as we wait for funds. I know the funds came in late, so it was a race against time. But my spot check showed that my colleagues did their best. Although the funds, though they came in late, they are still not enough because you find it is allocated per student. Yeah. And therefore, if your population is so low, then you have very little funds to work on this. For example, if you have 100 students in your school and you are allocating 500 shillings per child, you have only 50,000. And if it's a school that has so many needy students, you can see the challenge that this principal is facing. So what maybe the ministry, and this will need to engage with them on further discussion, should do is maybe allocate more funds towards COVID mitigation measures, especially to enhance hand washing, masks, and this, though the ministry has indicated is expensive, we still want to call other partners to come in and support the ministry the way Kenya Commercial Bank has done. So that we do not only say the vulnerable children. In this pandemic, all our children are vulnerable. So we say we get well-wishers to come and provide masks for students in school. But doesn't it beat logic if capitation is based on the numbers, and yet we know the same schools that are more marginalized tend to have fewer students, therefore they tend to have consistently more money allocated to them, and the bigger schools that already have these existing infrastructures anyway continue to get more money? Isn't that in itself marginalizing the other schools? To some extent. But we believe the ministry has noticed this, especially when we were looking at Board of Management teachers' payment. What the Ministry of Education did was to recover an equal amount across the board from all children, so that the schools which have more teachers employed by the board, in many cases they have low population, and therefore they do not have enough teachers, so they have employed many. What the ministry did for equity purposes, they were able to mitigate that by recovering from across the board. So that idea has been employed by the ministry in that issue of payment of Board of Management teachers. Maybe this should be looked into, but not by now, let's say, taking something from the other school to give this one. But a special fund can be put aside so that these marginalized schools can get better support in terms of mitigation measures for COVID-19. So what is the plan going forward? We know in Baringo about 18 schools are inundated as we speak right now. So the schools are not, the pupils have nowhere to go. So what is the plan from there now?
What I can say from the from the position of a member of the COVID-19 response committee, this came up, that there are schools that have been affected by floods, and students will therefore need to be moved. And I'm aware that the Ministry of Education has mapped out the schools, and they have been trying to look at where they can take these students. Though the schools at the moment are flooded, but plans are underway on where the students would go. I may not have the exact details on where they'll be taken, but I'm aware that the ministry has been mapping out these schools. Just the same as the Kenya National Examination Council has been mapping out, should this continue up to the time the children are to sit exams, then they will be relocated. They have done that before, and I'm sure they will still do it this time.
But also at the same time, what is the reasoning behind the scheduling? Have you thought about the absorption capacity of the students vis-a-vis all the things that they need to go through before the end of the term? Because the CAS said that they will start where they left. Are we able to impart all this knowledge in these students within this time frame and make sure that they understand what is being taught?
It is, and there is enough time. When we were discussing this at the COVID-19 committee, we were advised by the curriculum experts that the curriculum, the way it is designed, can be implemented within 30 weeks in the year. Normally we have 39 weeks. The extra weeks are to take care of activities, games, drama, and other activities, and other interruptions that may come in during the normal teaching. So the discussion was 10 weeks have been done in term 1. And therefore, we are beginning in term 2, remaining with 20 weeks, right? Yeah. So to me, there is enough time in which the teachers can finish the work, and we prepare the students for exams in March, because we have about 11 weeks this term, and 9 weeks next term. That will make the 20 weeks. Coupled, added to the 10 weeks of term 1, we will have met the minimum 30 weeks. What would be the challenge here, though, as the minister said, we will begin from where we stopped. Yeah. What the minister was referring to is we are not putting into consideration that there are students who are taking online classes, and therefore the syllabus has been covered. If you didn't attend, nobody will think about you. Yeah. We are saying, yes, that was very effective for schools and children that were in a position to access such classes. But we are thinking of that child who could not attend such online classes. And for us to think of him, everybody else must come. Yeah. So it gives us a lesson for future. How do we, again, take care of such, should we suffer another shock? So that's why the minister is saying we will begin from where we left. But teachers would definitely look at, this is where I was. How much learning has been lost? Yeah. For them to determine how far behind they can start off in order to bring the children. Yeah. Because some left their books and they have never opened them. They will be opening them maybe from this evening for those in boarding schools, or from tomorrow when the day scholars get to their schools. So the teachers will have an uphill task there, first establishing how much learning lost has been done, decide where to begin, and then move on. Of course, coupled with the other support they are going to be giving the students. Yeah.
Prince here on Twitter is saying, have you tested the teachers and trained them as well on how to handle a suspected COVID-19 case?
Testing of teachers has not been done, and I'm sure he's aware of that. We have over 300,000 teachers. And if we look at the general, as a nation, how many people we had tested within 6 months, then you think of testing teachers within a week, then it would mean you must also test the students, because you are not going to test only one section. Now, when it comes to the issue of training, there were training manuals that were established. The teachers may not have gone through face-to-face training because of the COVID-19 protocols. But the Ministry of Education and Teacher Service Commission came up with training modules. And this training module was placed on the TSC website, where teachers would download, principals would download for their teachers, and within that period that the teachers had reported earlier, they would have gone through it, and where there were in any doubts, they would definitely seek support from the county directors of education and TSC county directors. So physical training, that was not done, but the training modules were available online.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's bring up questions that were sent in through and pose them to Mr. Ndimulikahi.
Students are not safe in school. It's only God who can protect us and even them. Because these are learners, the grade 4, class 8 and form 4, they have the same behavior. They don't follow instructions. You tell them to wear a mask. Some will just wear when you are around or to please you. But once they go away, they just remove their masks. I remember today I met a student and I asked him, where is your mask? He told me that the mask is in the pocket. Those are the kind of students we are handling.
How will you ensure learners actually wear masks? Because that is a very practical.
That is a practical thing. I've also encountered it today. It is going to be a challenge, but I want to ask all teachers, all principals, that we must stamp our feet and ensure that these children wear masks, because the challenge of COVID-19 has now moved from the health sector, it has moved away from the parents, it is now centered on the teachers. And therefore, it is our responsibility to enforce the wearing of masks. We may not do it the way the police did to enforce the curfew when it was starting, but we must find a way of ensuring that the children wear masks.
What do you suggest? Because there's no corporal punishment.
Yeah, there's no corporal punishment. It's just reminding them all the time. Anytime you meet them, we have to remind them. I reminded several of them today.
Should there be some sort of punishment?
This is a health issue. We must make them understand that it is for their health, not necessarily having to inflict some pain on them, to realize that it is their health that we are trying to take care. But we have to put it in a way that they know it is not a laughing matter. And that is why in my last programs I've had, I've been emphasizing on parents, that they have to ensure that the children are following these protocols while at home, so that when they come to school, it is not something new. It is not, we are not opening up another front for conflict between the teachers and the students. Yeah. So the parents had to play their part, and I want to believe they must have done it. Even that last pep talk before you release your child to go to school, it must have emphasized that as you go there, the life is in your hands. Ensure you follow the instructions given by the school and what the Ministry of Health has done. So I still call upon parents, those who still have the children at home, to emphasize this. Those who have children who are day scholars, to keep reminding them of this. Okay. The masks are not meant for the pocket. Yeah. They are meant to be worn and worn properly. All
right, let's bring up another question.
I think the decision by the government to reopen school was one of the wisest decisions. Coronavirus is here to stay and is here with us, and will probably be here for a long time. And as a country and as the world, we have to learn to live with the pandemic. We have to learn to take things normally. As they say, it's the new norm.
Okay, what I think, it will be safe if those who are boarding to report back and they will be contained and the teachers would be restricted to move. That one could be safe. But for day school, it cannot be safe because they will be moving from place to place and this will be like spreading the case.
Do we have an actual plan to ensure that the transmission is limited? Because what he's raising is very important. It would have been easier to have the boarders in school because it's more contained and restricted, but the day scholars, they come and leave every other day. How will you track their movements and even know whether they're okay or not, considering the incubation period is about 14 days?
Of course, that is a challenge. And that's why we are calling upon parents to help us in this, because once we have released the students to go home, then we are not sure of what goes on between the school gate and the home and what goes on in the home. So all of us must be ready to educate our children. We must be able to tell them to maintain their distances, to wear their masks all the time, and to keep washing their hands. It's a challenging area, and especially for schools that run both boarding and day students. That's a challenging area. But we want to believe that this being a pandemic and our children have seen people fall sick. They have seen announcements being made of how many people we've lost. They will definitely have to protect themselves.
And the same applies to teachers, because they
also go and come out. That is why, for example, you'll find in every school at the gate there is a temperature taking and signing in, even for the teachers. You measure your temperature, record it, and sign that is actually your temperature as you are coming in. Then there is the hand washing stations. So you wash while still out there. Then when you come in, you'll still find more spaces to wash. So everybody, the teacher and the students, we must just adhere to the rules that have been put.
Okay, let's bring another question.
Our children are not 100% safe in school, but they really should be in school, because staying at home is doing them more harm than when they are in schools. Again, studies have shown the effect of this disease on children. It is not such a severe case as seen in other countries. But this is what I would want to end with again, Trevor. Joe Ageo said something on the news gang last time. I think it is time Kenya offered Kenyan solutions to Kenyan coronavirus.
The schools are not safe because of social distancing. The government should avail the tents and the desk they promised, so that we can have social distancing. Then other students can resume. Thank you.
And we also have another question here from one Kelvin. He says, Machakos Boys, which Mr. Indimuli happens to be the school principal, is asking parents for an extra 8,000 shillings for building a hospital. Isn't that insensitive, considering that the school's BOG is considering the current economic state?
Yes, we have discussed that. I don't deny that. But no parent has been forced to pay. This is a suggestion to be able to take care of mitigation measures when it comes to handling of these students. So that discussion has been there. Parents have given their views. Of course, there are those who have said no. There are those who have welcomed the idea. So we are not insensitive, because there is no child or no parent who has been blocked from coming to school because he has not supported this. But we are taking precaution that should we have a problem, Who handles this? The teachers are not trained to handle. The non-teaching staff are not trained to handle such cases. We need trained personnel who can manage it, and then as they transfer these cases to a hospital.
Okay.
So we have not been insensitive. We would have been seen to be insensitive if we had blocked the children. Mm-hmm. And I think that must be one of the parents raising it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's bring up another question.
Now, we have not looked at the situation and assessed whether it was right for us to call for the resumptions of schools at this time. We are still recording cases of corona, and we could record even more if you're not careful with this one. Now, it has been reported that most schools cannot achieve the social distancing rule because of the high population. And I think that should have been put into consideration before calling for all the students to go back to school. As much as we want to give them their right to education, we should not put their lives on the line.
Do we have our priorities right? Shouldn't we have fixed the infrastructure first before we reopen schools?
If, as a nation, if we chose, we must fix that infrastructure to the absolute level that people would want to see it, then we would never open. Why am I saying that? Because the cost implication of social distancing as a factor to consider alone in one single school is it runs into millions. And that is why the committee recommended to the minister that let us open in phases and let us open with the candidate class, because our system transition depends on these children sitting the final examination. So we have not called in, the government has not directed that all students come to school. It has said class 8, form 4, and grade 4. So the numbers in schools at the moment, form 4s alone in a school, the issue of social distance can be achieved. Mm-hmm. The class 8, it can be achieved. Yeah. So, but what many people have seen, they have been asking me this, you should have built more classes, more dormitories and all this before we open. And I say that is a very good idea. But that one is looking for the absolute scenario, which maybe as a country, our economy may not support.
Okay.
Yeah.
CPA Mohammed is saying, please ask him why didn't the CS Magoha go to visit schools in areas like Turkana and Mandera where there is scarcity of water? And what measures have been the government put in place to help such schools?
I am a principal of Machako School. I am not the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education.
True, but you are a member of the COVID-19 National Education Response Committee. You must have discussed schools that don't have water. What was the plan?
What I wanted to answer first is I don't answer for the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education on which school he chooses to see. That one he can answer by himself.
Okay.
But on the issue of schools like Turkana and the rest where there is scarcity of water, the committee did recommend that such schools could be supported by being given water tanks, and then also the county governments be involved, because we know county governments, many of them have water bowsers that can help carry this water. Many of them have rigs that drill boreholes. They could also be involved to come in and support this. So that at least is a proposal, one of the proposals that was given for schools that are in areas where we have very little water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's bring up another question.
With the right containment measures put in place, the masks provided, sanitizers, I think it's the right time, and I really support the idea that students should go back to school and proceed from where they left.
The government is so much abdicated into the fact that learners should go back to school. Few hours after the grade 4, class 8 and the form 4 students going back to school, they have just ambushed the student, the parents, and start saying that in few weeks' time, the parents will prepare to report so that all other learners report back to school. Where's the safety of the learners? Where's the safety of educators, the teachers, and everybody within the school of fraternity? The virus is spiking on and on, and nothing is being done. There are schools that you cannot manage.
Safety of teachers, most of them belong to the vulnerable group. What is the plan? And I know most of these questions you're answering as a member of the COVID-19 National Education Response Committee rather than the principal.
Yeah, safety of teachers, of course, like schools need to provide sanitizers for teachers. They need to provide masks for teachers. And to some extent, maybe gloves where the teachers may need. In addition to the teachers themselves also taking care of themselves. There, from the guidelines, it was very clear that teachers with co-mobilities would definitely need to be supported in this. And this can be done at school level. Then when you are feeling sick as a teacher, you are not expected to report to school, but report to a hospital and let your immediate supervisor know that you've gone to hospital. So that when you come back, you'll be able to give the doctor's report. Yeah. So it's not that the teacher's safety is not being taken care of. It is, and the principals will play a very big role in this, in supporting those that are above age, and I know there are quite a number, and there could be very many in a given school. So those will also lead to some other mitigation measures on how the children will be handled. But the guidelines are very clear on how the teachers should be handled, including the training modules given by the Teacher Service Commission.
Douglas Kiplagat says, ask him why the rush? Why didn't they just wait to start the calendar in January?
I don't think we rushed. And he's not justifying why he feels we should have started in January. I want to take him back to the day the minister did announce that the year is lost and we will begin in January. Though he mentioned that this decision can change based on the information that we would get and how the virus will be behaving. Now, when that decision was made, we got a lot of criticism, both internationally and nationally. Internationally, there were headlines being flashed. Kenya has given up, it has lost, they have declared the year lost. Internally, education experts were also asking, do you want to tell us that there was no any other way, that we could not think of how we can save the year? You see, when we started getting new information on the virus, and the Ministry of Health started releasing improved, I would say, protocols. For example, how many people are attending burials, how many people are now being allowed to go to church, and we saw the numbers going down. They are the same people who advised, now with all these mitigation measures, if you put in place, it will be safe to open. So there was no rush. It was well guided.
So Sam Kaonge here is wondering, and you've talked about this, but he has a more specific question. He says, so what happens to teachers above 58 years and those with underlying conditions? Shouldn't they stay at home?
Teachers with underlying conditions, there are directives on how they should be handled in terms of workload and the rest. As a teacher, they cannot just sit and stay at home because of the condition in which they are in. First, there must be evidence that the teacher has an underlying condition. That's why you saw in the press statement today, the minister had indicated that we must take care and document those students, teachers, those who have underlying conditions. So that will be done. So it will be easier to know the teacher has this underlying condition, there is evidence, this is the kind of load or how he's going to interact with students. Those above 58, again, it would be in the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Professor Mulima Emmanuel says he's from Busia. What has the committee done for schools with less teachers and the classes have been split to achieve the social distancing rule? I think it may not be effective in most schools where the intern teachers are the only ones that are there. How are you ensuring that the classes that have been split and yet the teachers themselves are few? How is that going to balance out?
The committee has no mandate on placement of teachers and employment of teachers. The Teacher Service Commission is very much aware of the shortfall that is there, and we expect the commission will work. There are field officers who I'm sure those in Busia have filed those concerns to the Teacher Service Commission, and that TSC can handle.
In the meantime, do you see a stretch by the teachers? Because if there are few and the classes have been split, essentially it means you will teach chemistry here, then go and teach it again here and teach it in the next class. One teacher.
Yeah, there will be a stretch, but with one class present only, and you have all the teachers in, however few they are, but you have only one class, then the stretch will not be as much. Okay. But if the other students come in, then it becomes a challenge. But with only one class and with the load that we are expected to handle, it can be managed to some extent.
Okay.
But should the other students come in and we are splitting them again, that is obviously going to be a challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's bring up another question we see here on video.
What happens to the school that has been submerged by water, and those that the infrastructure have been affected in the pandemic in the course of this time, and what are the measures that the government is going to take to ensure that?
I think the government of Kenya has been taking runners and teachers for a ride. What miracle will they perform now? They didn't perform for the last 7 months. I think this sounds satirical, because what we expect to see as Kenyans was installation of more infrastructure, more desk, and more sanitation point for our children.
So you already answered the first question about the inundated schools, but the next one is from a teacher who believes that they've been taken for a ride and there's not going to be any silver bullet now because they don't have enough capacity.
Capacity in which way?
In terms of the numbers that are coming through. Almost like the schools, there's streams that have been split and the students keep coming. How will you ensure that they cater for all of them?
Definitely, I may not have a straight answer to that, because as I said, when it comes to the human resource aspect, it has a commission that deals with that.
Okay.
So I'm sure when that time comes, the commission will have found solutions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aileen Pambo says taking children back to school at this point is a gamble. Those in grade 4 do not know what you mean when you tell them your life is in your own hands. They will not keep on a mask all day and avoid touching surfaces either way. Then we have Joseph Kimwaki, who says there's been a very positive change in Machakos boys from facelift, and I believe this is going on courtesy of you. So of course you have few of them also supporting you. Let's bring up some on the screen here. There's Makebs, or is it Thank God Jugush? Which one comes first? Makebs. A good percentage of citizens are affected by the pandemic in one way or another, hence distressed, meaning the students may be stressed too. Is there arrangements for counseling in schools for the students?
Yes, there is arrangement. For many secondary schools, they have guidance and counseling programs. What is key here is identification of students who may require this service.
Yeah.
But before you identify them, we've always done group counseling. Yeah? So it will start from group counseling, and then maybe slowly you can start isolating those that are exhibiting tendencies of wanting more support. They will always show themselves. They may not talk about it, but you may see it from character and behavior.
Okay.
Yeah, but the G&C departments are there. The only thing that I think as a country we need to do is equip and retool them more so that they have the capacity to handle some of these cases in terms of their teaching load and the responsibilities they have as teacher counselors.
Okay.
We've always rooted for their load coming down, so that they have more time to handle the children. And I'm happy one step Teacher Service Commission did was to look at that guidance and counseling as an administrative position.
Yeah.
And being an administrative position, maybe the number of lessons for them will go down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Frederick Cavo says, a question to Machakos Boys principal: how will contact tracing be done for day school students if any case where a student turns COVID-19 positive? Will the whole school be put under quarantine?
Yeah, that is a tough question, and especially when it is a day school. Contact tracing will be a little bit difficult. But I know what many schools would do is always to get data and give out a kind of form when the children are going home that give us information on who you come into contact with, and when you come tomorrow, we have it, you know, and keep a record of it. But it is going to be challenging. Yeah, what we are saying is, it is not just a walk in the park. The pandemic is there. We do not have any reference we can refer to that when we had such a pandemic, this is the way we acted. But the way we are acting now forms a basis of a future reference. Okay. If it happens, somebody can easily refer to when this happened in 2020, these are some of the things they did that were wrong or were right.
Okay.
So at the moment, it is a challenge that we must all face, so that we are not just saying it is the teacher, or it is the parent, or it is the government, or it is the child. All these people, we must come together and support each other, because it's not only the child's life we are talking about here. We are equally talking about the life of the teacher. We are equally talking about the life of the parent and the general citizen.
Okay.
So it is a fight we must do together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's another issue here. It's Kipleting. Let's bring that up on Twitter. It's Kipleting says we should be careful with the reopening of schools as second wave of coronavirus may surge. Government should ensure safe and security of our children is guaranteed. Let's bring up another one. See what you're saying there on Twitter. Hashtag Monday Report. Abraham Bashu says this is total confusion. No face masks to some learners. Some schools have no access to water. Both learners, government and parents seem unprepared. Let's bring up another one here and see what you're saying online. Hillary says reopening for the rest of classes in schools will make work hard for the school management, and it will be difficult to maintain COVID-19 protocols. Let's talk about that for a bit in Imuli, because the CS said that maybe in the next 2 weeks you will assess and the other classes may come through. As the COVID-19 National Education Response Committee, at what point will you recommend a school closure? Because this must have been something you've thought about. Should things go south? Because you just said we are trying to figure out what was right, what was wrong. So at what point will you then recommend that?
Definitely,
we need to close?
Just like it has happened in other countries, we are not saying that we are not envisaging that it could happen to us. And if it happens, then we will have to bite the bullet and just close. All right, and that would mean if the cases are too many and they are originating from schools, you see, then we'll have no alternative but to close again. But we did not open, in our view, we were saying we should not open to close. We should open and remain open until we finish the year. Therefore, the first 14 days beginning today are very crucial in deciding the way forward in the resumption of teaching and learning for the other students. These 14 days are very crucial. It is within these 14 days that all schools are expected to assess their systems in managing of any case in case it's there. They have to assess how the students are behaving, right? How the rate at which we are having maybe visitors coming to school, and managing any outbreak should there be. Yeah. The country also, as a Ministry of Health, will be observing and being able to advise, and the Ministry of Education too. They will be doing a lot of rounds to check how schools are taking care. So the first 14 days will be very key.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have a question here. Says recently some BOM teachers were paid and others were not, yet they did the same work in schools.
As a chairman of Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, I must say yes, this has happened. It had been brought to me several times by my colleagues and even by the BOM teachers themselves. I remember I found myself in a WhatsApp group. How I got there, I don't know. But I was there and I started reading all these concerns. Yes, some were paid and others were not. And we have raised with the Ministry of Education. And the last time I discussed this, I think it was on Friday, with the Director Secondary, he assured me that they are finalizing on checking on the anomalies so that the PS can be adequately advised and then funds will be raised. So it is true, it happened, and the Ministry of Education is following. And we too, as principals who are handling these teachers, are definitely not just silent. We are following it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's bring in more questions as we wind up on this. Mohammed Dida says Kenyan education sector operates on mixed interest of an array of stakeholders, NGO, donors and profit-driven entrepreneurs. Sadly, parents, teachers and learners have no voice decision making. Secondary schools reopening wasn't for public good. It was an economic urgency. You want to respond to that?
I'll not respond. I'll not respond to that one because that is his decision.
Okay.
What I'm aware of, principals were represented through me, both at primary and secondary. We had the chair of primary schools. Teachers were represented through the unions, and we had Akelo Misori and Wilson Sosion being members. So the other aspect of economic whatever, I think he has the reasons why he's saying that.
Okay.
And it is his opinion.
Okay.
And he's entitled to it.
Michael on Twitter says the Ministry of Education is paying lip service to a deep crisis in schools. Why the flip-flopping from mass testing and now masks? They can't simply live up to their word. The Education Ministry of Kenya knew that eventually schools will reopen. But since March, nothing tangible has happened.
It's an observation. I leave it at that.
Do you believe enough has been done from where you stand?
When you say enough, you need to say to what measures are we saying enough?
Yeah.
What I would say is we have been a little late in doing what we wanted to do. But it's good we are doing something. We are only asking the Ministry of Education to source for more funds so that the schools can do more in this as we prepare for other students to come.
Okay.
Yeah. So we cannot say we have not done much.
Yeah.
I can only say we've been a little late.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're running out of time here, but let's see if we can squeeze in a few more. He calls himself or herself Flat Screen 17. The COVID-19 response team must, however, remember that teachers' lives matter in this dispensation. PPEs must be provided to them all. Opening schools in phases is okay. Let's see another one there. If there's another one coming through and maybe a few, one more, 2 videos, then we call it a night. Kwarigia says, I think it is wise for the ministry and teachers to be sensitive about the issue of masks. When they were at home, they did not need to wear a mask. How will you handle students with breathing problems or even asthma? Now that is a fundamental question.
Yeah, that is true. and that is why there are health protocols to handle in schools. That is why we are also supposed to document those children who have certain underlying health issues like asthma. And I'm sure once these ones are identified, the Ministry of Health will give comprehensive advice on how such students can stay either without wearing masks, or if the masks can be worn for a period of time and another period of time allowed to be free. This, once teachers identify, I think we will be given adequate advice on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me run all these tweets and then you can get your final comments on this. Dr. Meje Moses says, we are still confused and not understand how the school calendar will run. Otherwise, government shouldn't risk the lives of thousands of innocent children just because of pressure from somewhere else. Let's see what else is coming through online at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, #Monday Report. Kate Besk says, let's face it, achieving social distance, if other learners resume in the next 2 weeks, will be a tall order. Simple as such. Let's see what else you're saying there. Mark Oseno says, the COVID-19 response team must, however, remember that teachers' lives matter in this dispensation. PPEs must be provided. We had read that earlier on. Let's see if there's any other coming through. Anjo says, it has been proposed that schools with no water should be provided with water tanks, etc. Underline the word proposal. Why couldn't the ministry provide the water tanks first before sending the students and pupils to schools?
Water tanks, I know there has been some arrangement. I may not really be so sure whether they have reached the schools. As I said, the Ministry of Education can adequately respond to some of these issues because they are directly handling them. The issue of PPEs, the PPEs that the teacher would need would be mask, maybe a face shield for teachers who are handling special needs learners, because that is an area we keep forgetting. We have those deaf students who rely on reading the lips of the teacher. So if the teacher is in a mask, definitely this student would not be able to follow. Then maybe sanitizers for the teachers, gloves, as I said. But I don't think it would be wise to give the teachers those PPEs we see the medics wearing. You know, we need to be very clear on the way we know PPEs of the medics is not the PPEs, in my view, that the teacher will have to put on. Okay.
I want to give you final remarks on this because we really run out of time here. What would you like to say to the parents who are still not very sure if they want to release their children?
Well, I'll want to tell the parents that all schools are doing the much they can to ensure that the children put in our care remain safe. So the way they have trusted the teachers in the past, they should trust that the teachers will do their best. To my colleague principals, I know the challenges that are there, but the battle is now on us. So we need to be more creative in doing whatever we are doing. To the Ministry of Education, I would like to ask them to look again at the funds that have been sent, so that we look at more allocation on funds to mitigate COVID-19, more allocation of funds to take care of teaching and learning, because what was sent, there is nothing has been allocated for tuition. So teaching and learning may be a problem. And then maybe guidance on handling of the salaries for the non-teaching staff, because what came in is not really enough to take care of the backlog. And to everybody else, this is a war that we must fight together. We should not look at it as only war to be fought by certain people. All the ideas that we have, that we have learned from elsewhere, and parents have, share it with the school administration, because the children there are our children, so that the principal, the teachers, the board of management can manage those children better.
Okay.
Otherwise, I still pray that we have opened and we want to remain open.
All right. We'll see that in the next 14 days. Thank you so much for coming through tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Indimulikahi, the chairperson, Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, and also a member of the COVID-19 National Education Response Committee, says the 14 days from today are the most critical. We'll see how that turns out. And thank you so much for all the feedback on the Monday report. That is where we leave it for tonight at exactly 11 p.m. Special thanks to everyone who's made this possible. Our sign language interpreter, Njoki Shege. Thank you so much. Good night. For now, my name is Trevor Ombija.